turn on the mic. Good afternoon. The Senate Finance Committee is now in session for a voting period. Which analyst is going first? That's me. Okay.
Okay, the first bill for voting today is House Bill 601, Pharmacy Benefits Managers Revisions. House Bill 601 alters provisions of law that regulate pharmacy benefit managers by repealing a blanket exclusion from the law for plans subject to the Federal Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974. And these are the self-funded ERISA plans. This bill is in response to a recent Supreme Court decision called Rutledge versus PCMA, in which the court ruled that ERISA did not preempt an Arkansas law regulating PBMs. The bill, there's still some debate about the extent, the breadth of that decision. So the bill alters a number of provisions so that they continue to apply more narrowly to carriers or PBMs that perform pharmacy benefit management services on behalf of a carrier, such as provisions relating to beneficiary choice of pharmacy and audits of pharmacies and pharmacists by PBMs. Other provisions apply more broadly to purchasers, which includes these self-funded ERISA plans and PBMs that provide services on behalf of these purchasers, such as provisions relating to maximum allowable cost pricing and disputes regarding cost pricing and reimbursement. The bill also alters some requirements regarding review and approval of certain contract forms and filings by the insurance commissioner, and requires the MIA to report to committees of the General Assembly on the scope of the Supreme Court's Rutledge decision and how to apply the decision to the regulation of PBMs under Maryland law.
Okay. Are there any questions? Well, it's a really big problem. I'm really glad to hear about this Supreme Court decision, because this is something that this committee and other committees have been battling over in at NCSL and Council of State Governments, and we didn't have any way to go. So do we have an a motion? All right, Senator. All right, Senator. All right. We've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not, if you're ready for the question, all in favor, please raise your hand. Please raise your hand if you're, okay. That looks unanimous for those of us here. Okay. All right.
Okay. The next bill on your list is House Bill 718. This was held 2 days ago. The bill establishes, well, it doesn't establish. In 2020, the State Coordinator of Autism Strategy and the Advisory Stakeholder Group was established in state law. This bill provides that the governor shall fund a position, but as amended doesn't specify an amount. There was a question that came up was why was it no longer in the Department of Disabilities and under the Governor's Office of Community Initiatives. That's where the governor is funding this position in stakeholder group. So it conforms the, it's not a specific mandated funding requirement, but it conforms the requirement with the current location of the Governor's Office of Commission, within the Governor's Office of Community Initiatives.
All right. Any questions, any motions?
Favorable.
All right. We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on this motion? All right. If not, then are you ready for the question? All in favor, please raise your hand. All right. If you're opposed, raise your hand. All right, that carries. Thank you.
First bill that I have for you today is House Bill 44. This is the Clean Cars Act of 2021. As amended, House Bill 44 reestablishes through fiscal 2023 the electric vehicle recharging equipment rebate program. The bill also provides $10 million for the payment of electric vehicle tax credits to the current backlog of applicants. The House amended the bill to strike certain tax credits for future fiscal years related to the electric vehicle excise tax credit. And that was out of concern over some provisions dealing with the use of federal pandemic relief funds. B&T is second on this bill as well. There's an additional amendment that's reflected in the reprint before you that's on page 5. This language was developed in coordination with B&T and with the House. So for context, MVA and MDE are considering changes to the Vehicle Emissions Inspection Program, but the legislature has not been briefed on those changes, potential need for enabling legislation, nor anything about the fiscal impact of the change. So the amendment would require MVA and MDE to submit a certain joint report, and it further prohibits MVA from selecting a proposed awardee for the program, and also prevents them from they may not award the contract before March 1st of 2022.
All right, okay. Senator Reedy, you'd like to?
Question about this program. I think I voted for the tax credit in the past, but I've always kind of had an issue with us doing this because is this tax credit at all means tested? There's a rebate, right? It's not a tax. It's a rebate. What's the difference between a rebate and a credit?
That would be a question better answered by staff to B&T. I apologize. The distinction between the two is not immediately clear to me. I think in this case, you're correct, though, that it's not a means-tested program. It's simply an electric vehicle excise tax credit that you receive on the purchase of a qualifying vehicle. The fund that provided those credits is currently empty, and there's a backlog, and that's what this bill seeks to address.
When did I didn't see in the testimony, but I may have missed it. When did it empty? Has it been emptied for multiple years, or it's just been emptied since last year?
I don't have a specific date, but I recall that we were considering, this was an issue during the last legislative session that we ran out of time to address because of the pandemic.
So okay, a little bit. I've often wondered if we should at some point. I know when we first put this into place, we're just trying to get more electric cars purchased, make an incentive. But electric cars have come down some in price, but in general, it's people more in sort of a upper middle class to wealthier income range that can afford an electric car. So I've just always had a concern about that. Not sure that this is obviously the time or place necessarily to get into that, but I just was curious. Thank you.
You're probably asking the right questions, though, and probably the more prevalent they become, the less likely it is that people only at one end of the income scale will be able to do it because they'll get cheaper.
It's a question of access and a question of people knowing about it too. So, but again, maybe that's another discussion
You
for
might
another
want an
day.
amendment if you're going to vote for the bill for the state of Maryland, if we pass this, to do something about letting people know. Senator Battle, and Senator Hershey, and Senator Jennings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I can answer Senator Reedy's question, we've been putting
Can
1.2.
you speak up a little bit?
We've been putting 1.2 million in the budget every year. It's never enough. It runs out like in July, and so because you're always rebating back to the year before, and so I have constituents all the time calling me and saying I bought an electric vehicle and I'm not getting my rebate. So this is good that it's going to, I think, catch up some of that. That's all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Senator Hershey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just what was the impetus for putting this VEAP language in this bill?
So it was announced recently that the transportation officials are planning to exempt cars that are 6 model years old or newer from emissions checks, and that would double the amount of time that vehicles can go without testing. The new rules, this is according to a Baltimore Sun article from March 24th, would take effect as soon as the state locates a new contractor for the program, and that the Department of Transportation is further considering to close certain centralized emissions testing stations and phase out older testing technology that doesn't use the plug-in method, and as a result, vehicles that did not have the ability to be tested electronically would therefore not be tested at all, and there's concern that some of those vehicles are extremely high polluters. So those are some of the things that I believe factored into the desire to have that information reported to the General Assembly and then hold up the award of the new contract until something can be
Could I
potentially
ask
addressed.
if they think that those that are old would be the only ones left being tested, are the people left to support the vehicle emissions program going to be poorer and maybe older than the general public?
I think there's lots of reasons why they might be looking to do away with testing some of those cars, and I've heard the same thing. If they don't have that capability, being able to plug right into it, it becomes very difficult for them to test as well, too. So there might be a reason. I just thought that was interesting to have this language inserted into this bill. But I just want to go over something I think we keep avoiding every time we pass a Clean Cars Act or something that incentivizes all these vehicles that don't pay into the Transportation Trust Fund. Obviously, they're not getting fuel, they're not paying the gas tax, but they're using the roads and bridges and highways in a sense for free. And, you know, we're incentivizing people, we're spending a lot of money to get people to buy these vehicles, but then, as we've had several floor debates on what happens with a depleted Transportation Trust Fund, we have a whole group of vehicles that aren't contributing into that. And, Manager, I don't know if this would be appropriate to put language into here, because we talk about the General Assembly being concerned about something. We also talk about a projected fiscal impact, about the changes to the Transportation Trust Fund. I think it's time, if we're not going to do something specific like other states have done to increase the registration fees for these types of vehicles, we should at least ask in this type of language for some type of analysis on what these cars are not paying into, and maybe at least for future legislation get a projected amount on what a vehicle registration increase could be for these types of vehicles.
If we were to hold the bill today for a couple of days, would you want to work on an amendment?
If you don't mind.
Okay. Well, let me go to the other person I know, and I'll be right over. Senator Jennings, you still want your light on?
No, he
Okay.
was kind of going over where I was.
All right,
I
Senator
usually-
Kramer.
Thank you for your offer to the good senator to hold the bill. As we have been saying in this committee since the day session began, tick-tock, tick-tock, the clock is running out. The bill had a motion for a favorable and a second, and I would ask that we resist any motions to hold it. It sounds like the senator has a great idea that he wants to work on for a bill for next session. And I think we in the committee, will be happy to have that conversation. If he wants to look at opportunities to address the Transportation Trust Fund and how it's going to be, funded moving forward, I think that's great. But that's a separate bill. That's not this bill.
Well, let me say this. The reason I ask is that I've had several calls this week from people in the general public and some in my district who've heard they might end up leaving only the people with the old cars, and they largely maybe elderly or poorer people, doing the emissions inspections and therefore needing to pay much more in order to have it done. And I just thought, if there's something that could be put on as an amendment to make things fairer as we do what is also environmentally appropriate, if we could do it in a day, would that make sense?
If again, there's legislation next year to do away with the vehicle testing for emissions, or to limit it, or to give people an opportunity not to have to test anymore, that is a very I think, important conversation to be had, but wow, that's a heavy lift.
Well,
And
I'm
it's
not
not this
suggesting what
bill.
we would do, but I'm just saying if waiting one day to see if we could get an amendment to keep things from having an unusually heavy impact on poorer and older drivers.
But that's not this bill, Madam Chair. I don't think this bill does that. Now, I see the Vice Chair started to turn on his light, but I don't see that in this bill. This bill is about trying to replenish the fund, because I get calls, as Delegate Beidel indicated, she gets calls from constituents saying, I want to buy an electric car. Where did the rebate go that we were promised exists? So this deals with the electric cars, and I think that what you're saying is very important, but it's not this bill. That's what
Well,
concerns me.
Okay, Senator Hershey and
I
Senator
I would
Feldman.
obviously have to disagree. This bill now deals with motor vehicle admission testing programs. I mean, did you read all of Section 3? That's what this bill now deals with. The bill was very simple when it came in, extended it, and then put more money into it. It's now a very different bill, and all it does is ask for some information on or before January 15th, 2022. I think that would be a perfect opportunity to evaluate this as well, too. And as you said, Senator, we could then put forward legislation next year if it's appropriate, but why not have them evaluate this as well, too? It's not asking for a lot. It's not holding up this bill any further. It certainly doesn't undermine the bill. It's uncodified language. But if we're going to make changes to this bill anyways, to evaluate a program, I think that this is very appropriate.
Senator Feldman.
Yeah, well, two things. So first, the clock is important here, and so I think Senator Kramer's point is solid. Here's the thing: I'm very confident. I have reason to believe that this very amendment or some amendment like it is going to be offered on the floor. I'd rather us craft something here as opposed to being confronted with a discussion about a floor amendment that does the same thing. But having said that, I think we talked about doing a voting session potentially tomorrow, potentially maybe 10:45 before session. I would say we need to put a hard deadline, though. Like, we can't mess around. I think this is an important bill. So I think both points are solid here. And I think the middle ground is, if you want to have some language, I'd rather have the language crafted here rather than a floor amendment in all candor. But it can't be open-ended offer here to Senator Hershey. It's got to be, I think, tomorrow is what I would suggest.
If I would just say then just to hold until tomorrow, and if I can't come up with it then we can just vote it.
And as I say, I'd rather us craft it rather than somebody clumsily putting a floor amendment 10 seconds before we present the bill on the floor and then have to deal with it. Right.
Basis of the question of the represented amendment as to what it will entail, I would withdraw my opposition to, again, with the Vice Chair's recommendation that we take the bill up again tomorrow. Thank you,
Okay,
Madam
why don't we
Chair.
follow the Vice Chair's recommendation? And if somebody can come up with a good amendment by tomorrow, we'll consider that. Thank you. So just hold on to your reprint so they don't have to keep wasting
The
time.
next bill is House Bill 419. As amended, House Bill 419 requires the Maryland Energy Innovation Institute and the Maryland Clean Energy Center to implement an accelerated program for Maryland-based technology companies engaged in clean energy innovation. The accelerator program is required to feature seed funding, training and development support for the companies. The institute and the center must also coordinate and consult with certain state entities as specified in the bill. The center is designated as the Maryland State Green Bank, and the center's financing authority is clarified as it relates to state entities. The bill provides ongoing funding for the Institute and the Center from the Strategic Energy Investment Fund. Senator Feldman is offering an additional amendment shown in the reprint, which expands the definition of advanced clean energy to include renewable chemical production, and that can be found on page 4.
Okay, Senator Feldman?
Yeah, just, first of all, just to refresh everybody's memory, this is actually a cross valve of a bill that I brought in early in session. And first of all, nobody was opposed to the bill, and B&T has now signed off on this bill. And for those of you who like economic development and leveraging state dollars against, private capital, I really think this is a great idea. The Clean Energy Center, if you recall from the hearing, has been managed with very modest amount of money to basically, for every 8 to 1, for every dollar that we let them leverage, it's translated into $8 or $9 private sector, and they've done a lot of good stuff. And so I think it's important for them. I think it's important. We have a lot of upside potential in terms of clean energy technology. I will make this one point, and this was brought out at the hearing by the University of Maryland folks. We are completely underinvested as a state relative to support for the commercialization. When we talk about advanced clean energy technology and innovation, by some measures, we're number 50 in the country. We have all this potential in clean energy, but in terms of commercialization and investing, we are at the very bottom of the pack. And so putting some dollars to deploy, I think makes a lot of sense. Again, nobody was opposed to the bill. University of Maryland was in here, and a lot of other folks. But I'll stop there, and I've got a lot of data about why this, I think, holds up a lot of potential economically for our state, as we're trying to move to clean energy, more clean energy.
Thank you. Senator Bidle?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a letter from MEA concerned about the CEF funds being used and diverted. Have you seen this email?
I think Senator Hershey's brought this up. So we had a lot of bills that were tapping CEF, and several of them were mine. In fact, and so what we were told is required this session, not in the House, by the way, but over here. This bill flew out of the House, I think, unanimously, no issue. Over here, though, all our CEF-related dollar fund bills had to go through B&T. And so they last week, I think, took like 8 or 10 of our bills that are CEF-related and went through and said, okay, these make the cut and these do not. This is one that came out of B&T saying that there's more than enough CEF money. It doesn't impact. So I think I would say that letter's a bit outdated, and I think it's come out on the floor. The CEF fund's actually growing because of the allowances. I think Senator Hershey's, we've had this conversation on the floor with Senator Pinsky. So B&T has vetted that very point, and this is one of the bills that they signed off of. There's other bills that are still in B&T said no go. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Do we have a motion?
I'll move favorably.
Second. Okay, any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Okay. Right, that one passes. What's next?
The next bill on the list is House Bill 606. So as amended by the House, House Bill 606 is an emergency bill that requires a gas or electric utility company to adopt a limited income mechanism to benefit an eligible limited income customer subject to the approval of the PSC and other requirements that are specified in the bill. The mechanism can take the form of a program, a tariff provision, a credit, a rate rider, or other means to assist an eligible low-income customer to afford utility service. PSC must evaluate a mechanism based on certain criteria that are also listed in the bill as amended. The bill makes a conforming change to a general prohibition against a public service company charging a different rate in substantially similar circumstances. In addition to customers whose income is at or below 175% of federal poverty level, the existing support level for participation in the Universal Service Program, or EUSP, and the Maryland Energy Assistance Program that's administered by OHEP. The bill authorizes assistance to customers at 67 years of age who are at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. The bill also authorizes PSC to designate broader eligibility criteria. That can be found on page 7 of the reprint. A municipal electric utility may, but is not required to, propose a limited income mechanism to assist eligible customers. The bill makes a number of changes to the Electric Universal Service Program. It adds a new ceiling of 200% to the poverty level for customers who are at least 67 years of age. And the bill lowers from 7 to 5 years the period during which a customer may not receive arrearage retirement assistance. This is on page 8 of the reprint, and exempts any arrearage retirement during 2020 and 2021 from counting towards those 5 years. The bill establishes a short-term work group on low-income utility assistance. The work group will study the Universal Service Program, MEAP, and other available low-income electric and natural gas assistance from all sources, and a report is required by January 1, 2022. The House also amended the bill to transfer $10 million in each fiscal year 2021 and 2022 from receipts under the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, or RGGI, and that would have been transferred otherwise to SEEF, to the new short-term special fund in DHS for OHEP to use to provide additional assistance. However, the governor's supplemental budget number 5 actually contains an item to replace the transfer from SEEF that would have been under House Bill 606, and the items in the budget are not contingent on the legislation, but it references the legislation as to how the funds are to be used. So in light of this, the reprint before you reflects an amendment developed in cooperation with the House and DLS budget analysts, striking the transfer and substitutes a mandated appropriation for fiscal 2023 from the American Rescue Plan Act funds in an amount that is equal to the unexpended appropriation from fiscal 2021. That language effectuates the language that was in the original House amendment that required that the funds transferred under the bill remain available until they were fully expended.
Okay. Senator Hershey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nathan, there's obviously a number of changes. I just want to make sure I understand. It specifically says a utility company does not include a small rural electric cooperative. Is that all of the co-ops are then excluded?
Can you point me to the page in line?
Page 3, lines 21 and 22.
Thank you. So I'm not certain. I mean, the language just says that it does not include a small rural electric cooperative, the rural element.
So it's small. That's the only one that had me. I don't know if. And then because then it has that a municipal electric company may go forward, but I'm assuming that the IOUs and however this is defined with the small rules must go forward with this different type of. It's still asking I guess the PSC to do the program for the
Could
rate
I
structure.
ask everybody to speak up a little more?
Sorry, it's still asking that's who is designing the program.
So the program would be subject to the approval of the Public Service Commission, but under the bill, I believe it would be the utility company is the one that is now required to adopt a limited income mechanism. So I would imagine that they would be responsible for developing it, and then PSC would have a sort of a review and approval role.
So, and I know that sponsors, you know what, I'm going to, if I can let you ask a few questions and say a few things and then. Okay, I just want to, so this in a sense will allow a utility company to come up with two different types of rates, two different rates?
Yep.
And then based on the poverty level and an age restriction, individuals would then be eligible for a lower rate,
Yep.
right? Is the intention then in order to pay that differential, if they're paying less, I'm assuming the utility still needs the same amount of revenue coming in, is that subsidized in the other rates, or is there now, because of all the Relief Act and everything else, is there now a funding source for that?
No, they're two separate.
That's what I thought.
They are two separate things, right? So there's relief for low-income folks, And then there is, and this was done in concert with the PSC, there's the design that they, with the guardrails that they asked for this utility-based, low-income rate, right? But you're right, Senator. I mean, it does in the end become something that will be socialized. A portion of it will be in the end.
So if I could, one of the issues that I continue to hear about with the programs that we have in place, the universal service fee, is that not enough people know that that is available to them. And the concern got brought up, if only 30% of those that are eligible are participating in it, obviously that's what's not working. The concern is here that if only 30% of those eligible realize that this is available to them, you could have 70% of those that could get a lower rate end up possibly paying that subsidized rate. And that's concerning if, with what you're trying to accomplish. So is there a mechanism to make sure those that are eligible for this are participating in it?
So what I would say to that is, again, part of it would be in the design that the PSC has put together. But what I would also say to you is that part of the reason for this is that the utilities are the ones who are in touch with these customers on a more regular basis. OHEP has the information about the eligibility, and so they would be more able, actually, to make the connection. They're and the utilities are the ones who said that. I mean, they're the ones who saw this as an opportunity to have better uptake because of the connection that they have.
I understand the utilities portion. I'm sorry, I didn't see any other lights on, so I understand the utilities concerns. And on the broader perspective, if there are a number of arrearages and failed payments, in a sense, they get made up by the entire service area anyways.
That's exactly.
Right. So,
Correct.
I mean, I listened to them enough to understand that. So, okay. I mean, my concern is just to make sure that those that are eligible for it, if that's what we're going to go forward with the policy, that they are able to participate in it and not see reduced or increased rates as a result. So, okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, the analyst has his light on. Did you want to say something?
Yes, Senator Hershey, I've been informed that there are two small rurals in the state, and that is Chop Tank and Smecco.
Thank you.
Okay.
It was really
Senator
targeted
Augustine?
towards the investor, and that was the reason, right? Makes sense.
Okay, lights are off. Senator Augustine.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great program. I move favorable as amended.
Yes, Senator Benson.
Second.
Senator Benson is seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Nat, are you ready for the question? All in favor, please raise your hand. Please raise your hand if you're in favor of the motion. Okay. If you're opposed, would you raise your hand? Okay.
It's really bold.
Okay.
Do you want to, are you going to hold?
All right. And I'm going to remind everybody again, my hearing isn't, I know I'm old, but my hearing isn't that bad. But I can imagine members of the public that are trying to view can't tell what in the heck we are talking about. We got to remember that unseen audience out there. Okay. Okay. We're going to the next bill.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Madam Chair, I wonder if maybe, I mean, we're really late in session, but I think sometimes a roll call might be in order if we're concerned about people being able to understand it, because
You might be right. The reason I've been asking for hands is because I think we aren't heard that well. At least they can tell we're voting because they can see the hand.
They can only see you, Madam Chair.
Is that true? Well, then in that case, then we will change and we will ask you to enunciate because I don't like being on camera. Okay. Okay.
The next bill on the list is House Bill 768, which we discussed yesterday. That's the Montgomery County Community Choice Energy Pilot Program.
Madam Chair, now that we're doing this Clean Cars Act bill, I think on the vote tomorrow per Senator Hershey's request, there's a couple technical things I'd like if we could hold this bill till tomorrow for that voting session as well.
Okay,
think
so
that would
we're
be-
holding 768. Okay. All right, let's move on to 392. Senator Augustine.
So, Senate Bill 392 is reflected in the reprint in front of you, conforms the Senate bill to House Bill 606, which we discussed and voted favorably earlier today.
That explains the enthusiastic debate.
All right, we got a favorable. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Not, if you're ready for the question, all in favor, please say aye. They said it. Aye. All right, now let's make sure she can get that. Maybe we can help along with our eyes so that Tammy can easily see who's voting and which way. All right. All opposed, please raise your hand. And you can say nay.
And say nay.
Okay. All right, then the ayes carry, and that passed.
Tammy.
All right, we're going to Senate Bill 460.
Chair,
Yes.
I'm not sure, but I think Senator Reedy meant to have a roll call. Did I misunderstand that, Senator Reedy?
Well, that was what I was thinking, but
Well, you
we,
said it out
That's
loud,
fine.
though.
we've got the
willing
job
to-
done for that bill, but yeah.
Yeah, but I don't like hearing nays and,
Okay, then we'll call the roll.
Yeah.
We want everybody comfortable with what we're doing. Okay.
And if you got that bill of Chair Davis in front of you that you vote against, you got a bill in ECM, I think it's good that you be on the record. Voting against it.
Are we voting again on that bill?
Okay,
Okay. So
you
the next
ready
bill,
now to hear the explanation of Senate Bill 460?
yes, ma'am. Senate Bill 460 conforms the Senate Bill 460 as amended and presented in the reprint in front of you, conforms the Senate Bill to House Bill 419, which we voted favorably earlier today.
Move favorable.
Any discussion? Is your hand up? I wasn't sure. All right. All in favor? Well, we're going to call the roll.
Same vote. We just did it. Same vote.
Same vote as House Bill 490.
Well, you just asked for the roll call, so let's try roll call.
Yeah, roll call.
Let's practice.
Senator Felton.
Aye on Senate Bill 460. Aye.
Senator Postmeyer.
aye for Senate Bill 460.
Senator Benson.
Yes.
Senator Kramer.
Yes, ma'am.
Senator Reedy.
Yes.
Senator Augustine.
Yes.
Senator Beidel.
Yes.
Senator Hershey.
Yes.
Senator Jennings.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes. All right, we're going now to Senate Bill 811.
Senate Bill 811 has been amended and is presented in a reprint before you. So as you'll recall, we had a discussion last week, I suppose, about reimbursers versus contributors to the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund. This bill deals with contributors, or people who pay taxes. Yesterday, the governor announced $1.1 billion in federal relief funds would be devoted to replenishing the state's unemployment insurance trust fund, quote, keeping it solvent and stabilizing unemployment insurance rates for at least the next 2 calendar years. Senator Hershey's bill has been amended. If you look to page 9 of the reprint, to allow the governor to move forward with this plan. So what the bill does as amended is that it requires, based on the availability of federal funds and notwithstanding any other provision of law for fiscal 2022, the governor must include in the annual budget bill an appropriation of funds towards the replenishment of the trust fund in an amount sufficient to result in the earned rate of contributions for calendar year 2022 being calculated in Table C of the Table of Rates. If you look to the fiscal and policy note for any of the unemployment insurance bills, but specifically for 811 in the back, you can actually see a table that sort of explains how these tax rates are calculated. And so there's two components to the rates that people pay, and one is their individual experience rating. That's whether they've laid anyone off over a certain sampling period. And the second is the balance of the trust fund. If the trust fund is depleted, we move down the tax tables towards Table F, which enforces the highest rates of taxation, and that's where we are now, because as of September 30th last year, the trust fund was largely depleted, so we moved sort of the base rate that everyone pays in taxes down to this Table F. The problem is that this is particularly onerous, and it can affect people who actually haven't had to lay anyone off, because this is the second of those two elements that affects the rate that these people pay. So the bill says that that the governor is going to put enough money into the fund so that under the normal calculation, we would be in Table C. Now, under the Exhibit 1 in the back of the fiscal and policy note to Senate Bill 811, you can see that in order to be in Table C, the trust fund balance must be between approximately $800 and $900 million. And so that gives you some idea of how much money the governor would be required to put in. However, we are in Table F currently and will remain in Table F for the rest of the calendar year, which may, depending on the number of claims that are being paid moving forward, build the trust fund into a positive territory so that the amount the governor would have to transfer into the fund would be less. Looking further along in the reprint, you can see that the appropriation required under the bill may be used for certain administrative costs, including repayments of any federal funds. So it is the case currently that we've had to borrow money from the federal government in order to continue paying claims, and that's what that provision is related to. Finally, subsection H specifies that notwithstanding any other provision of law, the earned rate of contributions for calendar year 2023 shall be calculated using Table C of the Table of Rates, and that is just to continue this effect of keeping us at a more manageable tax rate for a second calendar year. The entire bill abrogates at the end of December 2023 and puts us back in the normal process for calculating the tax rates moving forward.
That sounds good. Senator Kramer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Nathan, where is this money coming from that the governor will be putting in to the
So these
fund?
are federal pandemic relief funds.
Is that the monies that were recently passed? That would be the money that not a single Republican on Capitol Hill voted for, but it passed, and now our governor is going to be taking $1 billion of that to provide relief to small businesses and large businesses alike throughout the state of Maryland. Am I correct in my assessment?
You are correct in your assessment of the effect of the bill and that it will effectively lower the tax rates for all contributors in the state for calendar years 2022 and 2023.
That is really, really good news, and I am so pleased that we are going to be taking these actions to support our businesses in Maryland. Thank you for that,
So
Nathan.
we take us from F down to D. Okay, I see a couple of lights. I saw Senator Battle and Senator Hershey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The problem with this is it's not retroactive, and you pay most of your unemployment in the first quarter of the year. So I had a heck of a bill in January, but I won't get that money back. It's only going forward. And so somehow it seems like it's going to help people in very small amounts, probably in their second, third, and fourth quarter. I wish that we could make it retroactive.
Well, the money has got to be there to do it. Senator Hershey?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I would just respond to that. We tried very, very hard with the Department of Labor to find out if there was any way to make this retroactive, especially considering the businesses are in Table F right now. Even if there could be some type of true-up at the end of the year that would rebate some of those. And unfortunately, even with the infusion that not just the governor agreed to, but the speaker and the president all agreed to this in their joint conference yesterday. But even with the $1.1 billion in order to get us into Table C in 2022 and 2023, we need the funding that Table F provides. So we tried. We wish that we could have done that. We know it's going to be painful for this first year, but at least I think through this and the bill that Senator Klausmeier had that codified the experience rating of the 12-quarter look back of not using the quarters that were part of the emergency order. I think this is a very good step, at least to provide as much relief as we possibly can to businesses at this
And
time.
we need to have somebody here, legislative reference to somebody, give us a nice, simple write-up that we all could use to explain this and the timeline related. Nathan is raising his hands. That would be helpful.
I would point you, if you're looking for a simple explanation to provide constituents, because I know that this has come up regularly, the drafter of the fiscal and policy note, Steve Ross, has done an excellent job in the appendix, the unemployment insurance appendix, in explaining how these rates are calculated. So if you were to go to the fiscal and policy note for any unemployment insurance bill, the first page of the appendix explains employer contributions, because I know there are concerns right now where people believe that their rates have gone up even though they didn't lay anyone off, and it is not being clearly explained that their rates have increased because the table used to calculate the rates has changed for everyone.
Does she have a version that's at 10th grade level or below? Because, I mean, that's what the general public needs. When they see what looks really complex.
I would recommend taking a look at the unemployment insurance appendix. I
Okay.
believe it is very understandable.
Okay, thank you. All right, did we vote or did we just talk? Okay,
You want a motion? And I would like to say something. Senator Hershey brought this bill when we were having our unemployment bills, and we looked at it, and he kept pursuing it, and every once in a while I'd say, what's happening with it? Not enough money. We talked to Nathan, not enough money. And we are very, very fortunate that we got this infusion of money, and it's very, very wonderful that we're going to be able to help some folks out. And C sure sounds a lot better than an F. And I used to get C's and very seldom got F's, so.
okay, Senator Feldman.
I don't know if, Madam Chair, I'd like to be added as a sponsor on this.
Senator Feldman would like to be added as a sponsor. Anybody else want to be added as a sponsor? Well, I guess, man, I might as well too. You on it already?
I'd be happy to be on it because where did that money come from? Oh, yeah. Montgomery County. People are the taxpayers.
Okay.
But I just want to say thank you to
Taxpayers.
Senator Hershey.
Okay, now I believe we still have yet to vote. Is that correct?
Yeah, we haven't voted.
Okay, so she's going to call your name and you can register your vote aloud.
Favorable as amended, Senate Bill 811. Senator Feldman.
Aye.
Senator Klausmeier.
Yes.
Senator Benson.
Yeah.
Senator Kramer.
In proud recognition of the funding source, yes.
Senator Reedy.
In proud recognition of our taxpayers, whose money we are spending, but this is for a good purpose, yes.
Senator
Yes.
Augustine.
Yes.
Senator Beidel.
Yes.
Senator Hershey.
Yes.
Senator Jennings.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Okay, colleagues, I think that ends our voting list for today. Did we?
10:45.
What did he tell us? 10:45 tomorrow.
We're on the floor at noon, right? We're on the floor. What's that? They haven't said.
They told us noon. I think.
They said noon, so I would suggest Well, I don't know, whatever the will of the
Well,
the
we
committee
did
is.
have a bill that we talked about holding overnight for an amendment. So what about, could we make it in here by 11:15?
Yes, 11:15 works.
All right, so if we need to amend anything,
Madam Chair,
wait a minute, what
yeah.
is Nathan?
We,
Yeah.
we might need more time than that, so 10:45 or 11.
Yeah, there's a bunch of amendment potential. I
Okay,
think
so
we need
is
more.
11 better?
How about 10:45?
10:45? All right, 10:45. Okay, thank you so much.